Looks like we're live on YouTube. This is Male Entrepreneur Podcast, episode number 179. And we're live in 3, 2. All right, welcome back to the Male Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, the male entrepreneur himself, Purdeep Sangha. Purdeep, how you doing today, man?
Hey, what's up, Nathan? I'm doing awesome, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad to be back on the mic with you. And I just saw your microphone actually hover into the camera like a UFO. That was kind of distracting. But I'm doing good, man. And like I said, I'm glad to be back on the mic with you.
Yeah, same here. I kind of miss you. We do these recordings every couple of weeks, but it's always fun to get together because we always have great conversations. So I'm looking forward to today's episode.
Nice. And what do we have on the agenda for today's episode?
Well, 179, you got to tell me, man. I don't have the notes. I'm not sure which one we're doing today because I'm kind of confusing the two. I'm thinking we're doing everybody needs someone to talk to today in this one.
Nope, that's next one. I think this week we're going to be doing, it says people do just enough to
get by.
Get by. All right. So what do you mean by? Well, first of all, I kind of already think I know what you mean by that, but explain a little bit.
Yeah, it's this term called bounded rationality, and it's been talked about for a while. It's a psychological term. Basically, what it means is that most of the people do things just to get by. They do things just good enough. And if we don't think that we're one of these people, think again, because that includes us, right? Even as high performers, there's parts of our lives where we do things that are just good enough. Although we like to think that we perform the best at everything we do, we don't necessarily do that. And so it'd be virtually impossible to do everything at its best. Like you'd have to brush your teeth at its best, floss your teeth at its best. It'd be crazy to be at that high level. That would be kind of nuts.
So as a marketer, this is kind of something that I exploit pretty frequently, is just the fact that I don't know if it's just enough to get by, but it is part of human nature that we want to get as much as we possibly can without having to give very much. It's just kind of the thing that we do. We're in every interaction, in every trade, in every action that we take on in life, we're always thinking to ourselves, how can I possibly get as much as I can out of this without having to put too much effort into it? I think that there's some positives and some negatives to that. One of the obvious positives is that our lives are so much better now because we're always looking for ways to make our lives better without having to put too much energy into them. But then I look at like obesity rates, and I look at some of the very negative lifestyles that people lead these days, and I can also see that there's some negatives to this. I guess I just wanted to get your thoughts on progress, advancement that this kind of trait leads to, but also maybe some of the negative things that this trait leads to.
Well, it leads to a lot of negative things, but I think we need to understand that we are all human. And this is actually a pre-programmed thing in our brain because we have evolved to basically maximize our energy, right? To hoard energy. So the only reason why we actually or have evolved to move and do things like that is so that we could eat, so that we could get more energy, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't have to move. And so it's important to take a look. At the end of the day, everything revolves around energy. If I feel like I have to expend a lot of energy to do something, then I have to evaluate whether that's worth it, right? And that goes back to the concept of what you're talking about. Everybody wants maximum returns with putting in minimal energy. And that's essentially what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that because that's how we're pre-programmed. But the reality is that that's not necessarily how modern day life works, right? We have to put in. If you want to be the top of your career, you have to put energy in. If you want to be the best marketer out there, you have to put more energy in than other people. Why is that? Because there's competition out there. And so doing what, and I like to tell people, if you're aiming for doing good, you might get average results, right? So if you really want something, you got to aim for great and above.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the world works. And so the reason why I wanted to talk about this particular topic is because we often misunderstand people, and we say that they're lazy, or that they have something wrong with them. But that's not necessarily the case. And we say that because we see what they're doing, and we automatically say, well, I wouldn't do it that way. I would put more energy into it. I would put more effort into it, right? I would put more diligence into it. But here's what we need to understand is that we put effort into things that we find of importance. Other people put effort into what they find of importance. And a lot of the time that doesn't match. Right. And so when we look at people and we say, well, they're just skimming by, that's because that's what they might find of importance. They might actually put a lot of energy and time into something else in their life. But that particular thing that you're looking at, they may not find, excuse me, of the same level of importance that you do. So I think this, for me, this episode is really about understanding that about other people, but also understanding that about ourselves, because I bet you anything, there's people out there that are looking at what you do and what I do and saying, well, that person's just getting by in that. Why wouldn't that person put more effort into that particular area of their life? So understanding this is important.
I want to take it back just a little bit to something that you mentioned earlier, especially for the business owner guys out there. I've found that even just going 10% more than what is expected has amazing results on the interaction that you have with your customers or your clients. And a lot of times in business, a lot of times we're like, well, we're just like everybody else. What's the least amount that I can give my clients or my customers to keep them coming back and paying me? But and you look at the competition and you're like, well, they don't do this, so I shouldn't have to do this. But doing that 10% extra or even that 5% extra, a lot of times just showing the people that are paying you that you care 10% more than they expect ends up being something that turns people into customers or clients for life. And I don't think that people realize how simple it is just to go that extra 10 feet and really convert. I mean, you used to do a lot of stuff talking about super fans. I kind of want to get your take on that, because that's something that I've noticed, that just sometimes even just giving somebody a smile can be that extra 10% that really puts it over the top. And I don't think people realize how easy it is to outperform everybody else that's out there, because everybody else is suffering from this mentality you're talking about.
Yeah, great point. I am so glad you brought that up, because that is so prevalent today, especially because of COVID. Because businesses have cut back to such a large degree, corporations have cut back. It's taking longer in wait times. You call someone and you're on the phone twice as long as it used to be, because everybody's trying to save costs now. That's become the norm for a lot of businesses and a lot of industries. Well, guess what? If you can do exactly what you just said, you're going to differentiate yourself, because people are in a state of frustration right now. You and I were just talking about your Amazon orders not coming on time, right? A couple $1,000s worth of stuff that didn't show up or just got lost in transit. If you just go above and beyond just a little bit, especially in the tougher times, you are going to capture so much business. You know what? I don't even know how to tell people this, because it is such a simple concept, yet so many business professionals miss out on it. So many organizations don't invest in this, and they completely miss the mark. It is easy money. Now, that money might not be right away, but it could be long-term loyalty from your customers, right? And so that will trickle in over time. It could be something that they buy 6 months from now. So the investment that you make, exactly what you're saying right now, putting a little bit more time and effort into your clients, that goes a long way. And I think if you want to be above your competition, do exactly what you just said, Nathan. Just go think, okay, here's the bar right now. This is what I would normally do. So you have to consciously think about this. What if I took an extra few steps? Like, just be conscious of that, right? If you're conscious of it and going above and beyond, then you're actually going to be more aware of it. The problem is that we're creatures of habit, so we continue to do the same thing over and over again. We got to break that habit.
Yeah, we get into that comfort zone and we don't really like to move outside of it. Um, I want to kind of brainstorm a little bit with you about this stuff. Obviously, making people feel important, making people feel like you care about them. And I don't mean that in like a manipulative way. I mean that if you're a business owner and you've got people that you're serving, I kind of feel like you should actually care about them, and letting them know how much you care about them isn't something that should be or perceived as like manipulative or anything. But things like smiling at them when that's allowed, because that's not always allowed nowadays. Greeting them with a friendly tone of voice, not being short with them, not making them feel like they're a burden when you're trying to serve them. Those are little tiny things that really make a huge impact on people. Letting them know that you're happy to have their business. But also, and this is one of the things that when I'm working with my clients that has really made it, especially over the last year, has really made a tremendous impact, which is just asking, what is it that people are coming to us for? What's the result that they want? What's the experience that they want? What's the reason that they're paying us? And then brainstorming a bunch of different tiny little things that we can do to actually help meet that end. So we have this one service or this one product that helps them get this particular result. Well, what are other things that we could do that, again, it's just 5% more work or 5% more effort, but it helps lead towards that end result that the people are looking for. And having those little, you add 4 or 5 little things that help get that result, and those are 4 or 5 little extra steps that your competition's not taking. Immediately, it sets you apart as a premium, as these are the people that really care. These are the people that are really going the extra mile. And so I kind of wanted to get your take on, if someone's listening to this and they're asking, well, I don't want to waste my efforts. What are some of your thoughts on, going the extra mile, but in a way that actually makes it worthwhile?
Well, ultimately, what you're saying, every single one of those elements is important to do in every single interaction that you have with your clients. It really comes down to this one simple point. You want your clients to leave that interaction that they had with your business feeling good. That's ultimately it. So whatever you need to do that, to enable your clients to feel good about themselves, feel good about their interaction, and is fair game. So that's what you need to brainstorm, whether that's a smile, positivity, going above and beyond, sending a card, whatever it may be. You make them feel good, they will continue to do business with you as long as you are still competent in what you do, right? You can make them feel good, but if you're no good at what you do, that's not going to work. So you always have to deliver on your product and service, but you always make them feel good. If you have that in the back of your mind, and I always talk about the customer journey or the client journey, if you lay that out, actually map it out, just like what you were talking about, Nathan, is when we work with organizations, we say, okay, when a client walks into your office, what's the first thing that you do? And it seems, I'm going to say it seems silly to talk about these things, but it's important. You greet them with a smile, right? If you know their name, say their name, for example, right? Acknowledge them. These are all simple things that you can do that just trigger them to feel good about themselves, right? How good do you feel if you walk in to someone's office and they don't acknowledge you, or they don't greet you with a positive tone, or they don't smile? You don't feel really good about it, right? And here's a prime example: doctors' offices, lawyers' offices, and that's why one of the most important roles that you can hire for is your front desk person. That is so important, because if you have the wrong person at your front desk, I can bet you anything, you are losing business, you are losing money. And it's funny how people just overlook that piece.
I have a strange story. Recently, about a week and a half ago, I went with one of my clients, and he's buying a piece of property here in town. And we went into the property management place, wherever whoever was managing the sale. And we walked into the building, and it's stuffy. It's very corporate feeling. And there was three girls at the front desk. None of them were smiling. None of them looked like they were enjoying their lives. None of them looked happy to be there. And when we walked in, only one of them acknowledged us. And I felt maybe, like, I'm always a little bit self-conscious because when I walk into a high-end business and I'm covered in face tattoos and I'm dressed like a gangster, maybe they're afraid that I'm there to take money rather than make money or give them money. But we walked in there, and even when he's handing over a $16,000 check for the down payment on the place, and nobody smiled, nobody was happy to see him. It was so weird. And when we walked out, that one of the things that he commented, he was just like, dude, it just felt dead in there. And I don't know if it's just like the stress and everything getting to people, but sometimes just walking into an environment like that and doing business with people who just seem like they have no passion, no humanity, it seemed like. And it was such an off-putting situation. And I wonder how many other businesses, if you're a business owner, are your people treating your clients and customers this way?
Yeah, I bet you 80% of people are doing that, and I know this because this is a big area that we focus on with organizations. It is such a it's a sad statistic, or you could say reality, how little people focus on what you just talked about, right? The customer service, the experience, right? And acknowledging people. So long story short, if you want to sum it up, the reason why we're talking about this whole concept of bounded rationality is for you to actually be aware of it, right? Know that it actually exists. Most people do things just good enough, right? Most people in business do things just good enough. So if you want to get ahead, just simply do things a little bit better. And guess what? What ends up happening is that becomes the new bar, right? When you raise that bar, when one person, this is really interesting because it's kind of the opposite effect in unions, but in a typical work environment, when one person raises the bar, the other person's like, oh crap, I gotta step up my game, right? That salesperson is doing a better job than me. I better do something different, or I might be out of a job. In a union environment, it's a little bit different because a lot of the times what they say is, hey man, you're making us look bad. You got to slow down a little bit, right? So you got to take a look at your environment as well and see what's actually happening. But if you keep raising that bar, that's where you actually have success. It's those little improvements over time.
Don't even get me started on unions, man. That's a whole other episode. Okay, so we kind of explored a lot today, but I do think that it's important to understand just going that extra 2 steps can make a huge difference in people's, like you said, the way that they feel, the experience that they have, and really build loyalty in a way that I don't think anything else can really match. If people want to check out more episodes of the podcast, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, check out YouTubeForMen.com. If you're listening out there, really, really appreciate it if you could go to our YouTubeForMen.com and actually subscribe, because we're actually trying to build a YouTube channel here. So I would appreciate it if you could do that. If you want to just strictly listen to the audio, go to mailpodcast.com.
All right. And real quick before we're out of here, I know you're a busy guy, and I know you actually have some stuff. You've got an orchard, and you've got to get back to that in the very near future as well. But if people wanted to reach out to you specifically and maybe talk to you about how they can implement some of these tweaks in their business, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. That is my favorite platform right now. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message, and I'll personally respond.
All right. Purdeep Sangha on LinkedIn and the Male Entrepreneur Podcast. And until next time, man, we will catch you later.
Till next time.